This is LXPN TV, and I'm Colin O'Keefe. Due to a number of factors, the Pacific Northwest has positioned itself to be a large part of the next great economy, sustainable transportation. To explain, we bring in Kathleen Petrich with Graham Dunn in Seattle, where she's chair of the firm's GREENTECH practice group and author on the firm's blog, GREENTECH.
Thank you, Colin. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. I just also want to give you the caveat that the views that I'm going to express are those of my own and not necessarily those of my team or the firm's.
First, why do you believe the Pacific Northwest is on the cusp of being a hub for a great sustainable transportation economy?
The Northwest region has just so many wonderful advantages. The first, of course, is that we are a great technology hub. We have had the benefits of being the headquarters for Microsoft and for many, many years the headquarters for Boeing, as well as many other wonderful corporations. And that has really allowed us to attract top technological workforce and in that space. Other real major advantages include the fact that we have an abundance of clean energy, particularly through the hydro projects. We also are part of the EV or electric vehicle corridor along the Pacific coast that runs from the border, the California border from Mexico all the way up to Canada. We have world-class aerospace industry, and you might ask, what does that have to do with sustainable transportation? It has many things, but part of what Boeing has done is really pioneered high-tech, lightweight, strong composite materials that allow you to use less fuel. So that can be incorporated in individual passenger vehicles and other transportation options. We also have heavy trucking here. PACCAR is headquartered in our region, and that is the manufacturer parent company of both Kenworth and Peterbilt. We also have a very large research community that is headed by the University of Washington, Washington State University, and PNNL, which is over in the Richland Tri-Cities area. We have a very strong retail core that really uses transportation, and that includes very socially conscious companies like Starbucks headquarters here, Costco, we have Amazon. So those are all going to impact transportation. And then we also have a burgeoning telematics cluster that includes companies like Airbiquity and Inrex, where their products make cars more connected and more smart and use less fuel, or can get to the next location using the minimal amount of energy. And we also have a very strong early adopter mentality where we have a community that really embraces technology that is not only cool, but also helps the environment.
Definitely. And second, what must be done next for the Pacific Northwest to reach its potential when we talk about having a great economy for sustainable transportation?
There are a lot of great ideas. I'm not so sure I have all the solutions. A lot of really smart people are working on this, but I'm going to give you quite a few of those ideas and how they can be implemented. Last week, we had a significant transportation conference here, September 7th, that was put on by Next 50. Steve Marshall of the Cates Center, that's the Center for Advanced Transportation and Energy Solutions, was the host of that conference. And his op-ed piece was published September 7, 2012, that outlines 5 things we could do right now. Also, one of the keynote speakers for that conference was Amory Lovins, who is the chief scientist of the Rocky Mountain Institute. Amory Lovins also spoke to us here at Graham Dunn in a private reception the day before and outlined some things that we could do. And so I'm going to give you some ideas that both Amory and Steve put forth. The one idea that Steve is really big on, and that Amory was also behind, is the idea of using our purchasing power that we have here in the Northwest to create our own ecosystem that we can buy fleet vehicles, particularly plug-in vehicles, at a reduced price. Because right now they're still a little bit higher cost than the traditional internal combustion engine options or even the hybrid electric cars. So that would be one way we could do that, either at the state level or partnering with our neighboring states, such as Oregon or Oregon and California, or working with the federal government as well. One of the ideas that Amory put forth is the fee-based option. That's not one of Steve's top 5, but it is a situation where there are rebates given to consumers when they buy a energy efficient vehicle in a particular class. The offset of that rebate, though, is paid by consumers that are buying the less efficient vehicles in that same class. So it's an apple-to-apple program. So let's say, sedans would have one class, but trucks would be in a different class. So the rebates are going to be offset by the consumers. And that might be something that we can certainly propose once we know who is likely to be the next governor of the state of Washington. That may play a little bit better depending on the politics. The next comment that Steve really would like to have, or the next solution that Steve would like to have put forth, is to free up some of the regulatory strictures on the utility, particularly if they're going to create or generate more power, but it offsets fossil fuels. They should have that flexibility to increase their generation capacity. So that's a big one I think that both parties will be on board for. Another one of Amory's ideas is to really play to our strengths, which I've already mentioned, aerospace and the heavy trucking. And so we have some really great players here that can help us create eco-environments for more composite materials, better powertrains that can really reduce fuel consumptions, also in connection with our burgeoning telematics software connectivity companies. Another one of Steve's suggestions is also to create pilot programs to reduce congestion. One of the areas that he particularly calls out in his article is that congestion that is always happening right near Joint Base Lewis McChord. But there are other congestion areas that are just chronic, and so we can look at areas or particular congestion areas and come up with better pilot programs. The other thing that Amory is also looking at is looking at ways to increase our tax base or level out our tax base based on those that are using the roads, as opposed to the current situation where the tax is only at the fuel pumps for the gasoline that you consume. And so that is not really a great way if you're trying to reduce gasoline consumption, but also everybody's using the road. So there needs to be some kind of way to address that. Another one of Steve's ideas is to provide greater incentives for commuting. We don't have sufficient amount of ways to increase efficiency at public transportation and commuting. and there's a lot more to be done there. And the last of Steve's suggestions, which are also heavily adopted by Amory, is to really build on the strength that we've already created with that Pacific EV corridor. That's a great way to go from I-5, from the Canadian border all the way to Mexico, where you have charging stations all along, but that infrastructure still needs to be built out, particularly as you're heading east or in other locations. A lot of the communities are taking that on, local private companies are taking that on, but that's an opportunity that we can do better at a policy level.
Certainly, certainly. It's going to be interesting to watch in the coming years to see how this develops, because it's certainly a very excellent opportunity for the Pacific Northwest to really position itself as a huge hub for this economy. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Absolutely. This is not only a huge job creation opportunity, but it is also a great way to make the Northwest a model for good use of transportation, good use of its natural resources and precious commodities, and a good way to be better to our environment.
Certainly. Once again, that was Kathleen Petrich of Graham Dunn and their blog, GREENTECH. For more of her insight, be sure to visit wagreentech.com, wagreentech.com, and for curated commentary from the Lex Blog Network's thousands of authors, come visit us at lxbn.com. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Colin.